Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious on this special day where we have two brothers with us, Mark Usciak right here and brother Tom up in cyberspace. Hey, Tom,
Hey, bro.
Hey,
how you doing? Where are you coming
good.
from, Tom? Tell us where your home is.
My home is in Millersville, Pennsylvania, a little town outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
All right. Well, folks, you've heard of Triple T Days on Friday. Well, this is Triple M Day because we've got Mark and Marty. My co-producer Marty, he's here in house running the board, and we had to do this special program with Google Meets. So we needed, of course, Jessica Galloway, our Trekkie techie, to help us get through that. And excuse us for being a few minutes late, but there's always some things to work out. And we're going to talk about these gentlemen having uh, where's the magazine at?
I don't
Oh,
know.
toss me that magazine over there. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
No, jeez.
We're here because they are in Ad Astra Magazine, okay, which is the National Space Society's quarterly publication, or is it bi-monthly?
Quarterly.
And there's a feature on the Usiak brothers in here that we're going to talk about, their outstanding photography. Of course, it'd have been good if I had dog-eared that, but so we're going to talk about that and a little bit about their career, but definitely what an honor, Mark, to be in this magazine and featured with your big brother.
On newsstands now.
On newsstands now, Books A Million and
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble. And I got my copy thanks to one of the board members that gave this to me as a little perk of
Subscription.
a
National
subscription
Space
to
Society.
helping us in there. So we're gonna kick things off here in just a minute with these two brothers. Well, let's kick it off by asking them, hey, who's this that you two are with?
Oh, that's
Actually,
a goodie.
that's
That's my buddy Jack.
Jack,
Jack Lausma.
astronaut Jack Lausma.
Yep. He's
They call him Bad
STS-3.
Bobby on Space Hipsters.
His alter ego.
Uh-huh.
He's as good as they come. Bad Bobby was a nice little thing that they worked about for the Space Hipsters. Yep, I got it. There we go. We're getting up there now.
So what's this event and what's he holding there?
Well, that was at Space Fest, I believe, and that was a number of years ago. My brother and I had photographed his launch. I photographed his landing at White Sands, the only time they landed out there, and we presented him with a signed print of his launch that we took with our remote cameras as he flew on the third space shuttle mission.
Wow, which was an important one, and it landed out at White Sands, the only one that did that.
Yep.
I've met Jack. What a great guy, a
He's the
man's
best.
man if there ever was one. A good guy, and he's very accommodating to the adoring public out there. Well, we're going to talk about you guys a little bit here. Tom Usiak, there. Tell us a little bit about how you got into photography, your first camera, and then that business that you were in.
Well, we're going way back here. When I was in high school, I sort of developed an interest in photography. I had a friend who was a little bit more into it, who you met, had on your program, Steve Noley.
Yes.
He and I went to high school together. I was a year ahead of him, and we were in AV club together. We would take care of all the movie projectors and video cassette recorders, which were about as big as your table down there at that time. And we just developed an interest in space and photography. He had it, as long as I did, which goes back to Alan Shepard. And we started shooting pictures and developing them over at his house in his basement. And then it just grew. We started a business. Actually, it was in my parents' basement, developing and printing pictures. And it just sort of grew from that. And then I've always, like I said before, I always went to cover a space shot. So I went to the college I was going to at the time in the summer of '71. And I asked them if they would be willing to accredit me as a student journalist for the launch of Apollo 15. And they did. And then we just sort of put the photography and the interest in space together. and covered the Apollo program and then Skylab and ASTP. And then we started in the gap, in the interim between the end of the Apollo type era until the space shuttle, we started making contacts to different publications and things like that. We had to grow our equipment inventory. One of the biggest drawbacks we had in Apollo and Skylab, and that was we didn't have the greatest of equipment. We didn't have a camera with a motor drive on until Skylab 4, and I borrowed that motor drive from where I was working part-time. So that gives you an idea of what we had to work with up until that point. And it just grew over the years. Then the photography business, the photo lab business that I was in, grew to be a full service professional lab. At my peak, my partner and I had 52 employees. And it just sort of grew from there. And then toward the end, I had my own business, and that's what I retired from a few years ago, which was again a full service color lab, which included all the film processing and printing and transparency making and everything we could control, that what we photographed, instead of having to send it to a lab and cross our fingers, to make sure that it would come back the way we wanted it. An example was that picture of the Atlas Centaur you found the other night in that one magazine. As I told you, I supervised the whole part of that, from shooting it. I would put the film in the camera, and I took the print out of the processor and sent it to the magazine. And they printed that full page. So that's the advantage you have when you can control the product from start to finish.
Absolutely. As a shutterbug myself, you always want to get your fingers in the dark room and massage your own images. Today with digital, it's a completely different story. Before we talk to your brother here in a minute, what was your first camera, Tom?
Our first camera was a Canon FT, totally a manual camera. It was a 35 millimeter. And then we had the first two lenses we had, other than the 50 millimeter normal lens that came with the camera, was a 28 millimeter wide angle Vivitar lens, and then a 85 to 205 zoom lens, also a Vivitar, which were a good quality off-brand lens. That would be equivalent to today, like Sigma or Tamron lenses. Vivitar was sort of the equivalent of the, what they call, I guess they called an off-brand lens, because Canon lenses were way out of our range. And then Steve and I bought together a preset old it was old technology now, but a 500 millimeter Vivitar lens, which is what we used that equipment for to shoot our first missions, actually pretty much all through Apollo and Skylab.
Yeah, Vivitar, good company. I own a few of those old lenses. I had a 105 2.8 that was my portrait monster lens. And for those of you photographers out there, it's not in what's between your hands, okay? It's in between what's between your ears and the quality of that lens that you have. So, Tom, we're gonna get back to you here in a minute. Let's ask little brother here about you, as pointed out in this magazine, was the youngest accredited photographer ever at Kennedy Space Center. I'm not gonna say ever, because they may have snuck a 12-year-old in there now with a automatic camera, but that's true, correct?
That is true to my best of my knowledge.
Well, Hugh Harris, I think, confirmed it
well, that's good
the
enough
other
for
day
me.
when we had Hugh in here.
That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, at the time, my brother, like he said, was accredited for Apollo 15. The following year after that was Apollo 16. And they said, well, let's try this again. So at that time, you had to go through the college publications, newspaper. And so we just said, well, let's try and get me one too. So instead of accrediting one photographer like they did for my brother in Apollo 15, we put my name on there too. And I was 14 and a half years old. I didn't even have a driver's license, but I had a college ID because I'd go into the college to help my brother shoot sporting events or concerts and things of that nature. So I was a 14 and a half year old kid with a college ID, which is all you needed at the time to confirm who you said you were. It was a picture ID. And that's what I used to get my confirmation pass down in Florida when they gave us our letter. And that was it. That's how it started.
So was your first camera a hand-me-down Canon FT?
Well, sort of.
From Big Brother?
Yeah, well, my dad got us, we sort of passed it back and forth. His birthday's in November, my birthday's in October. And we had the dark room set up in the house, and my dad said, "You guys want to get into this? We'll start helping you out with some camera equipment." So we shared it, and that was the first camera I ever touched as well. So lots of fun.
Well, we're going to get back to Tom and Mark Usciak is how you pronounce their name, and took me a while. I would have guessed before I met y'all it had been Uziak with a Z, but Usciak, a good brother tandem from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They are featured in this latest edition that the National Space Society, this is their flagship publication. All kinds of beautiful pictures in there. We're going to see a few of them here in a minute. But with you guys' permission, we want to do just a little bit of space history because we can't ignore the fact that this man, David Scott, turned 90 years old yesterday, born in San Antonio, Texas. He is one of the 4 surviving moonwalkers out of the 12. Buzz Aldrin's 92, and 86 years old are Charlie Duke and on Apollo 16, and Harrison Jack Schmitt of Apollo 17. So, boy, these guys are pushing up in age, and you both have photographed these astronauts. I know. Here is another picture that I think is pretty cool. At least David Scott looks really cool there. He's out doing geology exercises with a simulated backpack and camera on his chest there for his moonwalk. One of my most exciting favorite landings, of course, Hadley Rill, there where they popped over Mount Hadley down. Either one of you gentlemen have something to say about David Scott and your encounters with him?
Well, we met him a few times at Space Fest. I remember my brother asking him questions about his stand-up EVA. He might want to comment on that. And every time I had a question for him, it was more about Gemini 8, because he was with Neil Armstrong on Gemini 8 when it started to tumble out of control, and they had to fire the re-entry thrusters to stabilize it and come home. And another interesting thing about Dave Scott is he is the last human alive that actually landed a spaceship on another body. The commander lands the LEM, and he's the only surviving moon landing commander left.
Why is 16 and 17 land automatically?
No, John Young landed 16 and Gene Cernan landed 17.
Oh, okay.
Scott is the only surviving.
Oh, the only surviving. Okay, yeah.
11's gone, 12's gone.
Right.
Jim Lovell never landed, and there you go.
Well, there's an interesting twist there to stay curious about. And we love that. Thank you, Tom. Worth pulling you in here just for that tidbit, I think.
He has an amazing knowledge of things like that.
Well,
that
good.
Never ceases to amaze me.
Well, I call him about knowledge, and I call you about where to eat.
There you go.
Here, so. But we want to remind everybody that's watching on Facebook and YouTube, we certainly appreciate you following us. Tell your friends about our Stay Curious podcast that Marty Winkle and I have been doing for almost 600 episodes. And we want to remind you all that we're not seeing your comments because of how our setup is today to bring Tom Usciak on board on Google Meet. So, but do mark your comments in there and we'll read them later and talk about them. Well, one other little sad note to mention today is the death of what is Russia's premier cosmonauts. He's like the John Young of Russia, the cosmonauts, John Young being the astronaut's astronaut. Yes, Valery Rumian died at age 82 yesterday. We were just talking about him on Tales from the White Room with Triple T, as Triple T was talking about 24 years ago. Rumian was launched on Discovery on STS-91. That was the last docking of a Mir space station. and bringing home the seventh person on there. I think it was Andy Thomas was the last one on there, and he's passed away. He's shown here with his wife, Elena Kondokova, who was on STS-84, a cosmonaut that flew on the shuttle. And as you look up this wonderful man, at least I think he's a wonderful astronaut. He spent over 300 days in space, twice on the Salyut space station, with about a 3-month break in between. So he was in space for over a year, in less than a year and a half. And so he's a big guinea pig test of long duration flights. And then he became the chief of the astronauts, as well as overseeing the construction of Salyut 7 and the Mir space station. And at age 57, he said, you know what, I want to see what Mir looks like. And I think just kind of punched his own ticket to ride STS-91 to space. So condolences to his wife and family. And at 82, that's a little young maybe for some of us to think about. But I know Tom will tell us in a minute about quickly his experience of photographing a Soyuz rocket launch in Kazakhstan. You ever met Rumian?
Nope, never had the pleasure.
Okay, enough of you. Tom? Tom, tell us in a couple minutes there about your experience of going to Russia. You mentioned to me several times it was sort of cold.
It's very cold. It was the coldest weather that I ever experienced in my life, easily. We think it gets cold here in Pennsylvania, but it was cold over there. The wind chills now were in the minuses and minus double digits. I know I had cameras that malfunctioned. The focusing wheel, the lubricating grease froze on the one I had. Wow. That was from Hasselblad. I had to put it away and do things with a 35 millimeter, which was an autofocus camera, and the motors worked in that to focus the camera. So, but it was cold. My quarters, were the hotel, or whatever you want to call it, where I stayed, was right on the Cosmodrome, Baikonur Cosmodrome. The room, the hotel was actually closer to the launch pad, and this is what I always tell everyone: it was closer to the launch pad than the press site is from Pad A at Kennedy Space Center. It was hard, And for launch, we were maybe a mile away from the rocket.
Wow.
No more than that.
What year was that, Tom?
1995.
Okay, good.
And that was when
there was an American on board, obviously.
Taggart went up with, and then
first visitor to the Mir space station.
And then STS 71, which goes later this month, went up, did the first docking with the Mir by a space shuttle, and that was commanded by another good friend of ours, Hoot Gibson.
Oh,
and he brought back the Russian and of course Thagard too.
We have the lawn chair that Thagard sat in above our shuttle gallery here. It looks just like a lawn chair. Yep, we certainly do. And Tom mentioned Gemini 8. We have the stuck thruster component in our Gemini gallery. It's another $1 million one-of-a-kind piece here that almost killed Neil and David. And for me, the rendition of that in the movie First Man is excellent to show the danger and how that whole thing went. First Man, the movie about Neil Armstrong. Who's the heartthrob actor that played Neil?
Ryan Gosling.
There you go. You knew him, didn't you? I knew you'd know that heartthrob.
I had to meet him through Chris Calley.
Okay. Oh, you had to meet, dropping Chris Calley's name? We're only 20 minutes into this thing. What's wrong with you? No, we're Chris Calley, renowned artist that you were going to stay curious with Thursday here in our studios at the American Space Museum. So, well, these two brothers certainly complement each other, as I've gotten the privilege to know them as a friend. Tom certainly is a technician and got the eye for densities and prints and all that sort of stuff. Not that you do. Tom's an excellent photographer. But your brother is a photo machine like I've never seen before. And he goes anywhere and takes amazing photos that I stand around for an hour or so waiting and then give up. Like this photo here Oh my gosh, an alligator and two birds in flock there. Where's this taken at?
Well, that was just the other day. I was over by Black Point Drive, not
On the Merritt Island Wildlife
Merritt
Preserve.
Island. Yep. And when it was out scouting some locations for the rollout, and took a nice little 2-hour leisurely drive through the wildlife preserve, and came across that little guy, and he was out getting his sun for the morning, and there was just a lot of air traffic there going on, and it was pretty neat to see. It's pretty neat to see.
Well, that's an awesome photograph, and here's another one I'm going to show off while you were looking at Artemis on the pad there. Oh my gosh, you kidding me? What are we looking at there?
We all got to eat.
We're looking at a Komodo dragon or something in the.
That's
We all have to eat.
a nice little alligator there having some crab bisque, I believe. That was not too far from the crawler. Well, probably about a mile or so from the crawler way, but from where I was standing on that same road that there by the wildlife refuge, I was getting some shots of the Artemis as it was slowly rolling past, and lo and behold, I look out and see two gators in the water, and the next thing I see is a mouth open, and I've got a whole series of probably 250 shots of that nice little guy having his morning breakfast. And you never know. I mean, you got to put yourself in those situations where you can get lucky shots like that.
Well, you do. Big brother Tom, I'm not sure he'd make it as a film shooter, ripping off 200 pictures
No, I
there
was
at
just
a
gonna,
time.
I was just gonna say, could you imagine what he say? 200 shots?
Yeah.
How much
Yeah.
film would you? How many rolls of film would you have burned off?
I'll take a brick. You can just give me a brick.
Yeah, a brick. A brick of film is 20 rolls, 10 by 10 in there. I've bought lots of Tri-X by the brick, I'll tell you that. Well, good. I wanted to brag a little bit on your photography because you are excellent, and he shares a lot on Facebook, and it's just your timing's just impeccable. I can't believe those are just a couple of shots he's taken around here. Carlton Bailey, our friend and launch photographer of over 600 launches, is in the room here. He kind of makes you just want to put your cameras down. That's why I'm taking up the pencil and going to be taught by Mr. Callie how to.
That's why I don't go out with him anymore. It's like
You don't hang out with him.
I stay home and sleep.
Well, you guys didn't get much sleep chasing that Artemis thing around. But we're going to take you back, Usciak brothers, a little bit here. Let's look at some old school picture here of you guys there. Tom, why don't you tell us, that's you on the right, little brother took the photo.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at it here on my tablet. That is a camera setup for STS 31, Hubble Space Telescope. I'm on the right there. In the center, crouched down, it's Steve Nolte, and
Hi, Steve.
the guy on the left there is Bob Preston. Steve and Bob were the ones that, like I said before, designed and built and checked out all the remote camera stuff that we used to make the cameras work.
That was 1990, because we're 32 years now that Hubble's been working. And here is a peek inside of one of those boxes, Tom, that Steve Nolte, who look him up on our YouTube library. We did a great program with Steve. People ask, how do you get that photograph when you're not there? And so tell them what they're looking at here to get a picture like this.
Well, you're looking at one of our remote camera triggers that Stephen, like I said, that Steve and Bob built. A lot of it is off the shelf, and then with some additional add-on parts. The main unit in there is an off-the-shelf Radio Shack. I miss those guys. Sound level decibel meter with a little needle on there that measures decibel levels. It was used like in factories and places that had to maintain a certain sound level, or on recordings and things like that, to make sure the decibels were correct and within range. And then we put it in a case, a Pelican box, they call them. They still make those.
Waterproof.
And the battery at the side there is a 9-volt rechargeable battery, which we eventually changed out. The only thing we don't use the rechargeable batteries anymore. We use we have like a group of the 9-volt batteries, and they're wired together in series. So they just give you more power capacity. It's 9 volts, 3 batteries, 9 volts, but they last longer because there's more capacity there. And we put them out. There's no timers or anything like that on them because they're set to run slowly. In other words, they're not responding instantly to noise. The needle in there makes travels up and when it gets to a certain point, it closes the relay, and that fires the cameras.
And bingo, there's what you get.
And in a lot of cases, we got the startup of the main engines surprised us sometimes. Sound would travel differently depending on the weather and the wind and things like that. But they've lasted. They were still in use. In fact, Mark used them and Steve used them not too long ago at Wallops Island. Probably that same unit.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. A little technical there for some of you out there on Stay Curious, but we appreciate you as we're celebrating the Usciak brothers, Tom and Mark, on the getting in Ad Astra Magazine. Tom, I asked you the other day on the phone if you'd recalled any other photographers being featured like that, and I said, oh, apparently not, I guess. We're going to look at a couple other pictures, then we're going to talk about your publication history here. But here is a really famous photograph that right there. And this is old Mark Usciak's photograph. What's going on there, Mark?
That was the first Cape landing in the shuttle program. That was Vance Brand and Hood Gibson flying.
Number 5, right? Let me get this.
Well, what was that? My STS 41B.
Oh, okay.
It was 41B. So that was the first time they had the confidence and they wanted to give it a shot. I mean, they always had Edwards there if they needed it, but there was a little bit of ground fog there you can see on the shot.
Morning.
Yep, it was not 100% sure of the time, not too long after sunrise. But it was a good day. Lots of photographers there, lots of interest generated by that. Got to hear the sonic boom over the Cape for the first time, boom, boom, and it was a good day. Got some really good shots.
How many people are standing around you, and what does that sound like? A glider, folks. There's no power on the shuttle when it comes back. None of the engines the 3 main engines, of course, don't have any fuel to them because the ET fueled them, external tank. So I'm always curious about sounds and who's around you. You got 100, 200 people
There,
around
I
you
think there probably was about that. I mean, they had we were all spread out. I mean, they had areas where you could go and couldn't go, but that being the first time, nobody really knew exactly where it was going to touch down. They had aim points for it in the on the runway. And it was just one of those things where you're hoping you're in the right spot and got a good shot and got touchdown. You see it flying overhead. Like I said, you could hear the sonic booms when it came back, which is commonplace now with the SpaceX launches. You hear those when those things land. They give you that same boom boom, and so no, that was pretty interesting.
Well, fish here most of the time because they're not landing on land or landing on that barge, but
Yep.
yeah, it still happens anyway. So you all covered over 70 shuttle events. About how many landings have you done, Mark?
Well, my first landing was STS-4 out in Edwards, and then it was kind of like a neat little thing because that was Columbia was landing out there, but then STS-3, of course, was my first, and then STS-4, and then after STS-4 had landed, Challenger was built, and it was like a double because they were flying Challenger on the back of the 747 not too long after Columbia touched down out there for STS-4. And it was in the summer, I believe. My brother probably has the date on the top of his head, but I remember it was It was warm. President Reagan came out, and you could see him greeting the astronauts at the bottom of the steps. And I can remember looking across the desert and seeing all the heat waves as that 747 flew through that and then flew right over our heads to bring the orbiter to the Cape.
July 4th.
Yep.
When
Yep.
that was on there. Well, we can't leave your little brother out here. I mean, your big brother out there. There's one of Tom's shots. Look, full frame, Tom. I found it for you there, buddy. They cut off the tail a little bit in Ad Astra, and that's why Tom's like me. He goes, doggone it, that's not the frame it is there. Tell us what's going on there, Tom.
Well, that is the first time Columbia came to KSC. And as you can see in the picture there, the heat shield was incomplete. The thermal protection system was not completed. They decided to bring it to Florida to finish. That was with a Hasselblad camera, which was not a high-speed motor drive camera. An EL Hasselblad would run maybe 2 frames a second if you're pushing it on a fully charged battery. And I wanted to get that shot in a high resolution. And they flew a Pathfinder plane in front of it. I believe it was like a DC-9 type of aircraft. And they said it was going to approach first, and then the shuttle at 747 would be close behind. So I practiced on that, panning and shooting at the same time with the Hasselblad. In that sequence there, I got three shots in that sequence. One before that had the entire airplane in. This one and the next one was looking at it from the back end almost, because like I said, the camera, a good high speed 35 millimeter camera probably could have gotten 12 to 20 shots on a burst like that, where I couldn't get it. But the Hasselblad then was never really meant as a news gathering camera. Hasselblad was really designed for portrait and commercial work. Then they said, boys, let's take this to the moon. And actually, I believe it was Wally Schirra on Project Mercury that used the Hasselblad in space for the first time. Some of the guys out there watching or listening may be able to correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure Wally on Sigma 7 had the first Hasselblad.
I'll bet it's at the Smithsonian, just a few miles, or
Yeah.
nice drive from where you guys live there. They have an excellent camera collection at Udvar Hazy,
Yep.
of space flume cameras there. Well, good. I know you're fond of that picture. What a neat picture. Look at the tires hitting the smoke and everything. You got the chase plane T-38 there. What an excellent shot. Excellent shot. And we want to talk to little brother here a moment about why he's here on the coast. And let's see if I got, there's your picture that you took today, Mark.
Yep. Yesterday, that was at right after the alligator shots.
Okay.
You can the SLS rolling out to the pad for its wet dress rehearsal next week. You can see Pad A tower in the background there, and then that's going up the ramp to stay at its spot where it's going to be for the next couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a nice morning. I was surprised there wasn't as many photographers, or I only saw 2 other guys over there where I was to get that shot. Most of the other people, I guess some of the people were accredited for the role, and then there was people scattered. There were some people on the beach. But I wanted to get that. I was actually hoping, when I was thinking about that shot in my head, I was hoping there'd be some wildlife or some waterfowl there on that little pond there in between where I was and the booster. I was hoping to get a nice flock of birds flying through the shot, but wasn't to be. All I got was an alligator having his breakfast, and I'll have to settle for that this time.
Photoshop. I mean, which I'm not a fan of, which I've seen some amazing cameras lately. Carlton just bought a new one. Oh my gosh, I mean, trust none of what you see and less of what you hear. And that's a Bruce Springsteen line, by the way. But this is the rollout back in
March.
March.
Yep.
And you got some real pretty pictures of that. It was a limited press corps out there, was it?
Well, for this one, it was the first one. There
Yeah,
was
this one was. I'm talking
Yeah.
about last night or 2
Yeah.
nights ago.
Yeah, that was. It wasn't. I guess it wasn't an official event as far as my credentials for ST or for the first role weren't accepted for that. So people that were previously badged for an upcoming SpaceX mission or photographers and media that are accredited full time with their annual badges could go out there. So that's good. I got what I needed for this thing, and it was fun to shoot with Carlton and just get it from a different angle. And
There's the
we'll get some
Orion
video.
in the white room for the Orion capsule up there.
Mhm.
Looking pretty cool. You're here for another reason, though, not the rollout. Tell everybody that's curious about why you're on the Space Coast this weekend, Mark Usciak.
Well, this was a triple treat. Obviously, the rollout was a main part of why I came. I wanted to get some shots of it. Also, this weekend is a big event with the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. Their annual Hall of Fame induction ceremonies over at the Visitor Center is this Saturday, and came to photograph that and to meet up with some friends, Mr. Callie being one of them, and
Chris Callie,
Yep.
renowned artist. His father, Paul, was one of the Apollo sketch artists, the only sketch artist in the suit room, Apollo 11. We'll talk about that Thursday with Mr. Callie.
plus we have 2 SpaceX Falcon launches this week if weather and timing hold out. So it's launches and rollouts and all the other dinner stuff and
Where are you right
and
now?
this is the greatest museum in the country, American Space Museum in
Thank-
Titusville. A certainly one of a kind place, and I urge all my friends and whoever's watching to please stop in and visit.
Well, you talked to our executive director, Karan Conklin, for a while this afternoon, and we just can't express how pleased we are and happy that you want to partner with us and help us. They have given us their archives of photography because their kids and grandkids don't want it. And that we'll be doing things down the line, maybe in postcards and things like that with your excellent photography. But we're thrilled to have both of you on board and call you our friends. You have brought people to us like Mr. Chris Callie and other people. Both these brothers are well known by, oh my gosh, probably over 100 astronauts would know you by looking at you from the Space Fest that you covered and other events. You've also gone into some hired by Hoot Gibson and other astronauts to do things, correct?
Well, I'm pleased that they appreciate our work good enough to hang up in their house. I've done some work with the Jack Lausma's family over the years, and it's just fun. I mean, you don't think about it when you first start getting into it, but the more your work is out there and the more people know of you and appreciate what you got, it's priceless to me. I just like it.
It is. It is. It's well, after all, photographers are artists. They have a sensitive side that their work is accepted, or reasons that might not be. That you need to improve your craft. But tell you one thing, Big Brother doesn't need to improve his craft much. By looking at this picture behind us, here is as I put our earplugs back in. Sorry about that. One little thing we haven't mastered on these is our audio. But we might have to buy another gadget as we're sharing earbuds here. But this is a picture of Tom. What's this a picture of behind us here? And I'm going to show you. I'm going to let me go next here. There we go. We want to brag on you that you were our program cover for our inaugural Shuttle Fest. That you were there and photographed.
Okay,
And,
well, yeah, the photograph on the cover of the program for the Shuttle Fest is STS-5 and November of 1982. And the one behind you is sunset at STS-3. And I'd like to mention another person that we got to know. STS-3 will always be probably, if I had to pick one, the one that was most rewarding to me was STS-3, because getting to know Jack Lausman, his family, but also getting to know the widow of Gordon Fullerton. Marie Fullerton is a lovely person. We met her at Space Fest a few years ago. I forget which one. They all seem to run together. But she is a very, very nice person, and I'm hoping sometime, if she's ever in the county there, she would make a nice guest for you, because she could tell you good Gordon stories. And that, again, that's one of my regrets, that I never got to meet and talk with Gordon Fullerton, because she said he and I would have had some good conversations.
Wow. And Fullerton also flew with museum friend of Fred Hayes. Didn't he fly Fred in the Alt?
Yep. Approach and landing test.
Approach and landing tests.
Yeah, very, very, I mean, that's a test pilot there. Okay, taking this glider off a 747, landing it for the first time. Gotta have a little heebie-jeebies going on, you would think, wouldn't you? All right, well, I want to look at that one more time. Big shot right there. We had a Shuttle Fest, we will brag, was quite an event that we didn't think would. Well, we're glad it mustered the attention. April 16th, we are going to continue Shuttle Fest 2, will be April 15th. I'm already working on some guests and a theme, as people like Mr. Jay Honeycutt, former Kennedy Space Center director, is behind our Shuttle Fest, and he gave me a list of themes that we could do on there. And so we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to you guys supporting Shuttle Fest, not only in person, but we'll be featuring your artwork there as well. But as I go up here, let's now look at the publications here, as we're talking to Usciak brothers, freelance photographers that have photographed all kinds of things. Tom, you recognize this for Final Frontier, one of the popular magazines that's gone astray. There is your credit line on it right there. What did we say year that was? But as young photographers, quite a thrill to see your name and picture inside the index.
Final Frontier, I believe, came out.
Well, this one's the February '93 issue.
Okay, February '93.
Yep.
That I can't remember the actual date it came out, but yeah, that is.
What a shot of Endeavor.
That's STS-47. That's Hoot Gibson's launch.
Okay.
One of the cameras that we had set up with a long lens on to catch that solid booster. In fact, I think that might be the one that he had hanging in his office at one time.
So.
Mark, he in touch with Mark about that. But yeah, that's that one. We had the cover of the first issue of Final Frontier.
Very good, very good.
We
Who published that?
We were also in the first issue of Ad Astra, and that was in 1988. And I remember that because it was the coverage in there was of STS-26, and that was Return to Flight, or it might have been early '89. But the first issue of Ad Astra covered STS-26.
Well, here I have this recent edition of the National Space Society's magazine that is dedicated to creation of a spacefaring civilization. The cover teases you in there, and there's the opening pages. The two brothers are at the bottom. Here's a close-up picture of that. Where's that taken, guys?
That was at Udvar Hazy. Down in Virginia, Chantilly, Virginia, part of the Air and Space or Smithsonian Air and Space Museum.
And what type of wearing apparel is actually right near Discovery?
Well, that would be Triple T. His suit is on permanent display, not too far from the shuttle.
Yeah.
So stop down and see that. It was a great event. Thank you again for inviting us to cover that.
Well, that's where we really met and bonded with you. Marty Winkle arranged this to go over there, and we spent a couple 4 days there. And I actually had a picture of Triple T and I made,
Mhm.
just like you two brothers there. It's a great facility. I can't wait to go back to it. Uh, so we just got a few more minutes here with these two brothers here that tell us a little of the excitement of this. Tom, you first. When you're retired and you look back on uh, being a success after 5 decades of shooting. Uh, what does this mean to you, Tom?
Well, I'm very honored that they did that. The article actually goes back almost 3 years. Let me give you a little background quickly on it here. In 2019, Mark and I did a presentation at Space Fest of our work. I think I sent you the PDF of that, or the
Yes.
PowerPoint
Uh-huh.
of that
And
presentation.
I'll plagiarize it first chance I get.
But anyway, after we were over, Rod Pyle, who is the editor-in-chief of Ad Astra, is always at the Space Fest doing presentations and lectures and that. And he came up to us after that 2019 program and said, "I'd like to do a story on you two guys." Of course, then end of 2019, 2020, 2021, of course, COVID, everything is sort of just got put on the back burner. And, everyone was pretty much out of touch with everybody else during that time. And then last year, when we did Space Fest, the last Space Fest was, I guess, 2021, he sort of renewed that and said, "Let's finally get this done." And we said, fine. And we went back and forth with emails and texts and things like that. And that's how it came to be. So it was really in the works since the summer of 19.
Well, 10 pages here, folks, of their beautiful photography. We didn't want to show them all to you because we want you to go out and buy the magazine and support the National Space Society. And we can't see that one picture there. There's a picture of two shuttles nose to nose at Udvar-Hazy when Enterprise was swapped out for Discovery back in the day. But quite an honor. You guys are well deserved. I'm sure our Stay Curious watchers that know you are applauding you all being in there. They are not only excellent photographers, but they don't toot their horn like some people I know do, and in other in all works of life. You have people that are good and humble, and they seem to rise to the top. And though I try to be sometimes
Diplomatic.
diplomatic. That's
Well,
right.
I can't say enough about Rod and the organization.
Rod Pyle.
Rod Pyle, yeah. He's an amazing author himself. He's got numerous books out. Just great people to work for, and I'm forever in their debt to be able to cover events for them. I really appreciate their support, and just a great organization, good people, and magazine is awesome.
Well, I know you'll make sure he sees this interview conversation with you folks. And this is what the Usciak brothers bring to the American Space Museum, is all these wonderful people that they've made friends with, that we hope we can talk to them on Stay Curious at some point in time. Rod Pyle, you're certainly welcome to sit in this guy's seat and share your publishing career with us there. Well, a couple little pretty pictures to send us out here with the Usciak brothers. One of my favorite ones is right here. No, not that one. This one. Oh boy, tell us about this and where you are standing, Mark Usciak.
Well, it looks like I'm flying, but I'm really not. That would be a Mike Killian shot.
Yeah, Mike Killian. Cheers to you, buddy.
He would be in the chase plane shooting that one, but I and a bunch of other photographers were on the roof of the VAB, and my brother Tom. My memory escapes me which mission this was. You probably know. I know it was film. It was probably back in the early '90s, I'm guessing. But in the background there, you can see some of the apartment complexes in Titusville, 10 miles in the background there. But that was, I think that was the first time I was up on the VAB roof for a landing. And again, that's the place. I mean, whether you're shooting a launch or a landing, the best seat in the house is always going to be the roof of the VAB, hands down, no question about it. But that, standing up there, watching that thing, hearing it, of course, hearing it first, because you'd hear the sonic booms as it came out of supersonic back into trend before it was landing, and then watching it go past it 250, 260 miles an hour. It's probably, from where I was standing, I'm going to guess it's maybe a mile. Maybe a mile or a half away from where I was. I was 500 millimeter film camera, Canon lens, Canon camera, and then took pictures of it as it actually touched down 30 seconds later off to the right.
And myself photographing fast race cars in NASCAR, it's going 250 miles an hour. This is no easy task to center this and be ripping off film as you're winding your thumbs winding the spool if you didn't have an automatic film winder on there.
Yeah,
so
there
it happened
was
quick.
motor.
Happened quick, and then it was filmed, so you don't even know that you had the shot till the next day or hours later when you took it to the lab.
Well, the good thing with that was I was fortunate enough up near home. We have a bunch of air shows, and there was air shows up in Reading, Pennsylvania, which is close to where we live. There was some in Dover, Ocean City. They used to have a yearly air show up at Andrews Air Force Base, and I would always go there. And then I figured, well, I'm going to use some of that experience and some of that practice to hone my skills for the shuttle. The air shows, you had plenty of times. They would make numerous passes, and you could, if you messed it the first time, they'd come around again, and just learning, the speeds and the tracking and all that stuff. So all you photographers out there, you can't get enough air shows. That's the best place to go.
And you can see plenty of air shows on Mark's Facebook page. You were just at one a couple weeks ago, and at Dover they had the big planes out there and jets and stuff like that.
Blue Angels and Thunderbirds both were flying, which is a rarity when they get both of them at the same air show. It was good.
And here's the last picture we're going to show you from the Usciak brothers, their collective minds working together there.
That was John Glenn's mission, STS 95.
1999.
Yep, that is also a film image, one shot. A friend of mine let me borrow his special panoramic camera. That's about 140 degree field of view. Shooting on 2 1/4 roll film. It just wiped it across two frame widths in the back of the camera, and you got one shot, one click, and that has always been one of my favorite shots I ever took.
Good. Glad I chose that. Well, tell people where you're at.
Well, it's a Launch Complex 39 press site. It was up on the mound. There's a slight mound behind me there that you could get up above, and you could look down over. You could see the crowd in front. The countdown clock is over off on the right.
Thousands of people there, right? This was huge turnout. Hugh Harris has said.
Was that the record, or it's close to the record as far as the number? I'm not sure if that one topped STS-1 or not, but there were
11.
Yeah, but there was close to 3,000 people.
Yeah, sure. and like he said, he's got actually one shot to get this. So he's watching the shuttle climb. You wait another 4 or 5 seconds, it'd be out of your frame, wouldn't it? There.
Yep.
And well, that's a good picture to take us out with the Usciak brothers here, sharing with us their photography career a little bit about how they love what they do, and the wonderful tribute to them in Ad Astra Magazine by the National Space Society, that we hope you go out and get your edition at local bookstores. There still are some bookstores left in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Here,
or you can buy a subscription. You could join the National Space Society.
That'd even be better.
Wonderful organization.
I forget how much that is, but we.
Could I put a quick word in here, just real quick?
Yes, I was turning it back to you, Tom.
I just because I know he's there. I just want to say thanks to Carlton for all the years that he's helped me down there, kept my equipment. He used our equipment, which was my pleasure to see, and just a good friend and a good guy and a hard working guy. I mean, I don't.
He's blushing. He's blushing. Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for everything, buddy. I'll be back soon.
Well, all three of them are kindred spirits, people I'm happy to call my new friends here on the Space Coast, and even maybe go up to the Amish country and get me some good cheese up there or something.
Shoe fly pie.
Shoe fly pie.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, we're ready for you.
All right.
Anytime, brother.
I'll try it. I'll be a Mikey on there. Tom, thank you very much. Is there something else you'd like to say before we say goodbye? We're going to say goodbye in a minute. I got a couple other
funny
pictures to show.
you just mentioned shoe fly pie. I asked Mark about the time we delivered shoe fly pies to the news center.
Oh, geez. God, when was that?
Early, because it was before Margaret. It was Joanne Matty, if you remember, when she ran the photo department down there.
Okay. Do we
She
get
asked for one.
Uh-huh.
And said, we'll bring you one. And she probably thought we were kidding, but the next time we were down, that's when we were going down pretty frequently. We walked into her office, and I said, we have pies to deliver.
Oh,
I said, a shoe fly pie there directly from the Amish country.
Yeah, did we get that at Bird in Hand? Was that a Bird in Hand restaurant, or was it
One of them, probably.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay. Yeah.
well, you've got a bunch of people Googling shoe fly pie right now, I think, Tom Usciak. We're not going to ask you what's in it. You'll surprise me next time you come down
I don't
here.
know.
No, you don't know? Nobody knows. what's
Nothing
in it.
that's moving. I can promise you that. It's all right.
All right, all right. We want a couple other pictures here just to show off here a little bit. Mark has another job that he helps carry out. He's the official Chris Calley photographer in there, and chauffeur, and Uber driver.
I look better that
And
way. Yeah.
there's Mark and Chris, who you're going to meet Thursday, watching Stay Curious on their smart tablet a couple weeks ago. Where were you at there?
This was down in Crystal City, Virginia. It was the ISDC conference that was sponsored by the National Space Society. Saw Rod Pyle there. They had invited Chris and myself, along with Michelle Rausch, another artist, to display our work there. That was outside the conference room. There was a lot of traffic going back and forth there at the base of the hotel. And I hadn't been there for years and years. They bounced the location around for the ISDC conference to different hotels across the country. So they rotate, like every third year it'll be back in the Virginia area. I think it's in Dallas, Texas next year. But anyway, that walked into that hotel, and the thing that struck me before we even got to see our spot where we were going to set up our display was, boy, those elevators look awful familiar. And I should have sent you a picture of that. I don't have that. But they had filmed two of my favorite movies at that hotel. One of them was True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the other one was In the Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood. He played a Secret Service agent. And I recognize the hotel elevators are very rare. They're kind of like they're octagonal shaped almost, and they're glass all the way around, and they're inside. So when you go up them, you're looking at the hotel through all the glass. And there was a couple scenes in those movies that they had filmed there, and I was like, oh wow, so this is what it really looks like when I look back and see those movies. Now I know. Now I get a better feel of how the thing was set up for the shots. But
That was which hotel?
it was a Crystal City Hyatt.
Crystal City High.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's you and Chris, and we can't wait to talk with Chris Calley about his wonderful art. You're going to be amazed if you don't know this gentleman yet. You'll want to know more about him. And so Stay Curious Thursday. His father, Paul Calley, was one of the first of 8 artists to go cover a launch. It was Gordon Shepard's launch of Mercury, the last Mercury flight in 1963.
Gordon Cooper.
Gordon Cooper in 63. Yep. James Webb, the great NASA administrator, handpicked 8 watercolors, sketch artists, that sort of thing. Because he said all the photographers are the ones getting out there, and Chris's dad Paul was one of them. And did you know that Andy Warhol, the great artist, was another one that got
Yes.
access to walk around out there? So, gentlemen, we really appreciate you helping everybody stay curious today, and you've helped make our program more popular without a doubt. We talk about you all the time in our
Thank you.
partnership and share your pictures. And Karan, Conklin, our executive director, and myself are just, as well as our board of directors knows who you are. So you've always got a home here, and we're just pleased that you're with us like you are.
Our
And,
pleasure.
and bringing us good quality people all the time. Tom, is there something else you'd like to say as we say goodbye to you in Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
I think we've covered everything.
Good.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you bring in your brother, a bag of oranges or grapefruits
No.
this time?
Sand,
He's bringing you a couple of Bailey's
Carlton's
cats.
cats.
Might be a squirrel in there too.
Thanks
He
to
usually brings me those signed posters from the Hall of Fame, so I'm.
I'll see what I can do. But I just wanted to thank Jessica and Marty again for the great work pulling this all together. It looks like it's easy, but it's not, and it's their hard work and expertise along with Mr. Marquette here make this a. I watch this at work. I watch your show every day. I can at work. I have a little earbud and I'm doing my work on one computer and I have your screen over on the other side and just really appreciate and enjoy all the coverage and the telecast that you guys do. So
Well,
Thank you.
appreciate that. You got a little taste of the production that goes into this.
Yep.
And we enjoy an hour show with quality people like yourselves. Tomorrow we're going to do Shuttles of June. 11 shuttles launched in the month of June. And like you said, I can't thank my co-producer Marty enough. He's strictly a volunteer, and he's learned things that, though he's a very smart man and worked on the launch process systems as a computer manager, this is going live and stuff. This can be hair raising at time, right, Marty? And we do thank Jessica for teaching these two old men some new tricks so we can bring you this program. It is important to our nonprofit that we reach out this way, and because we are a nonprofit, we need money from people to keep our wonderful museum open. And with good people like Tom and Mark Usciak wanting to be part of this, and Carlton Bailey.
and big thank you to Karen too for having you guys. You got your nice little spot here, and
Yep.
the museum is just amazing. I can't stress it enough to please visit if you guys get in the area.
Well, thank you. So we're going to see with Shuttles of June tomorrow, and Thursday, artist Chris Calley, that you're not going to want to miss. Thank you, Mark and Tom Usciak. And we will see you again to what? Bridge the space between us.
Thank you.